I'm going to come down here. Hey, welcome, and thanks for coming to our first ever town hall Q&A here at Facebook. We've had this tradition for, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years at the company, where every week we have a Q&A where our employees can come and ask me any question that they want about what's going on and what the direction of the company is, or questions or things that they read about in the press, or that their friends who use the product, what they're asking them. And it's been this really important tradition for us, both because we really believe in openness and communication, and that's kind of what Facebook is all about. But it's also really important for me and for running the company to be able to get feedback, right? And to be able to learn what's on people's minds, what our employees and folks who are part of our team are thinking about, and just kind of a lot of the time there are good questions that people ask that change the way that we think about what we're building and what we're here to do in the world, and that often make us go think and reevaluate how we should be approaching different problems. And I thought it would be really valuable to start doing some of these town hall Q&As with the people in our community as well. So I mean, often, when I go out and I travel somewhere, I'll sit down and I'll do a Q&A or meet some folks in a place that I go to. But because of the way that we work, I actually don't travel that often. I spend most of my time here just working on the products that we're building, and that's how I feel like we're best serving our community is, people use our products every day, and I kind of wake up every morning and try to help build the best things that we can. But within that framework of me not traveling that much, I thought it would be interesting to start having a town hall Q&A here. So I'm so grateful that so many of you came out today to come talk to us and give us feedback and ask questions. And I will try to bring kind of the same openness and transparency that we have inside our company to all of the same questions that you guys have about what we're doing and where we're going, and anything that you're wondering about as well. Part of the tradition is also that these Q&As aren't just me. Part of what makes it more fun and interesting, especially because I don't know the answer to all the questions, is we have a bunch of folks from our management team come to the Q&As that we do each week with employees, and today to our town hall Q&A as well. So I think it would probably be useful for some of you guys to stand up. And we have Cheryl Sandberg, our COO, Elliot Schrage, who runs policy, Dave Weiner, who's our chief financial officer, Mike Schrepfer is our chief technology officer, Colin Stretch is our general counsel, and then over here we have Chris Cox, who runs product development, David Marcus, who runs Messenger, Chris Daniels, who runs internet.org, and there are more of you here than I thought there would be. Javi, who runs all of our projects to connect the world, and Jay Parikh, who runs engineering and infrastructure here. I also missed Fisher, David Fisher is here, who runs sales, and also there's more of you. Naomi runs all of our social good projects, and Gary runs marketing. So anyhow, we got a lot of crew here today. So anyhow, for the folks, so I assume that there will be some questions that I don't know the answer to, and I'm going to call on them. Also, feel free to just interrupt, as you do during our weekly employee Q&As. When I just get something wrong, I don't mind when people just kind of cut me off and say, yeah, you're going in the wrong direction. Here's actually the truth. All right, so with that, let's kick this off. I think we want to, we posted on this thread, Q&A with Mark on Facebook, and a bunch of people wrote questions in, and we asked folks to vote on those questions by liking them. So I think we're going to start off by just by trying to answer and go through some of the top questions that people asked, and Charles is going to kind of talk about how this is going to run, and then we'll kick it off and get started.
Thank you, Mark. So here's how the flow is going to work today. So as Mark mentioned, we have questions from the thread. We're going to kick off with a couple of those, and then we had some people ask questions on the thread who actually flew in from all over the US to ask their questions in person. I think some of you, it's your first time to California, so it's a big one. And then we're going to open it up to the room, and we're going to see what the audience wants to hear. So does that sound like a plan? We're good? Okay, excellent. So let's kick off with the first one. Mark, this was one of the most popular questions on the thread, and it comes from Haley from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and it's a messenger question. Mark, why did you force us to install Facebook Messenger?
All right, let's just get right to it. This is good. I mean, whenever at our internal Q&As someone asks a hard question, I always am really grateful, right? Because that's how, I mean, it keeps us honest and it basically, you know, needing to be able to explain clearly what we're doing and why we think it's good is, I think, an important discipline for the actions that we take. So I know that this is a question that a lot of people have, both that people have been asking us on the Q&A thread and outside of that. So I think it's a good and fitting first question for this town hall Q&A. You know, the first thing that I want to do is just acknowledge that, you know, asking everyone in our community to install another app, Messenger, is a big ask. So I appreciate that was that required work and was a bunch of friction, and I just want to acknowledge that up front. The reason why we wanted to do this is because we really believe that this is a better experience, and we think that messaging is becoming increasingly important. So on mobile, each app really can focus on doing one thing well, we think. And the primary purpose of the Facebook app today is newsfeed, right? You open it and you can look at content that your friends are sharing or public figures, and you can share things. And messaging was this behavior that people were doing more and more. There were more than 10 billion messages sent every day on Facebook. But in order to get to your messages, you had to open up the app, which would take a few seconds, and then go to a separate tab. And you know what we saw was that all of the messaging apps that people were using and that they relied on the most were kind of these dedicated, focused experiences. So whether it's the SMS app or iMessage on your phone, or something like WhatsApp, which has grown a lot in a lot of countries, there are these apps that are fast and they're just focused on messaging, because you know, you're probably messaging people 15, 20 times a day, and having to go into an app and wait for it to load and then go through a bunch of steps to get to your messages or send a message is a lot of friction. And we felt like we couldn't deliver the best experience in doing that. And you know, so we believe that messaging, it's one of the few things that people actually do more than social networking, right? I mean, in a lot of countries, we'll see that maybe 85% of the people who are online will use Facebook, but maybe 95% of people, or in some places 99% of people, will use SMS or send text messages, right? Which probably fits with your own use of these products. So we thought that it was, even though it was a short-term, painful thing to ask folks to install a separate messaging app, we knew that we could never deliver the quality of experience inside as just a tab in the main Facebook app, and that we needed to, if we wanted to focus on really serving this well, we needed to build a dedicated and focused experience. This also gets to one of the things that we struggle with, and that is one of the biggest challenges about building products at Facebook, is that we build for the whole community, right? So one question that you can ask is, all right, well, if we were going to build a different messaging experience, then why wouldn't we just kind of wait and let each person decide when they wanted to install that on their own, right? And if they wanted to just continue doing messaging in their main app, then why didn't we just allow that? And the reason is that, you know, what we're trying to do is build an experience and a service that's good for everyone in the community. And you know, one of the things that we found is that because Messenger is faster and more focused, if you're using it, you respond to messages faster. So there are these cases that we hear about all the time where, for example, just a few weeks ago, I was messaging some friends to see if they wanted to go see a movie, and they responded right before I kind of needed to go ditch them and go watch it on my own. And you know, if they were a little bit slower to respond, then you know, we might have not been able to meet up and gone and done that. So there were all these times where having, you know, everyone, all of your friends in your community synchronized on some service is actually a very valuable thing to do. And those are some of the hardest trade-offs that we make in our product development at Facebook, because we realize that we're not just building products for a single person, we're building for an entire community, and we're building for to make things that are going to help that entire community communicate and stay connected. So we realize that we have a lot to earn in terms of trust and proving that this standalone Messenger experience is going to be really good, and we're really committed to doing that. And we have a team of a lot of our most talented people doing that, and we're looking forward to continuing to develop ways for you to share photos and videos and all kinds of different media and fun stuff in Messenger, as well as just continuing to make it faster, which I think is the most important thing in a messaging app.
So our next question is also from the thread. It comes from Callum in Leeds, England. He was kind enough to send us a video, so let's check that out.
As Facebook regularly innovates and releases exciting new features, I've always been curious by which features Facebook has developed but not released for whatever reason. What's your favourite feature that Facebook has developed but not released?
That's a good question. So one of the things that's nice about the way that we get to develop products is we don't have to make a decision to either launch something or not. A lot of the times what we can do is have a beta test where we'll roll something out and let maybe 10,000 people try it, right? Or 100,000 people try it, or people who choose to opt into something try it. And then we can see how those folks like it and whether they prefer it to an existing experience that they already have. And if that works well, then we can continue to roll it out more broadly. So I can't think off the top of my head of something that I thought was neat that we didn't at least test and start letting people experience. But there are a lot of things that I can think of that I thought were really good that when we started rolling them out, for a number of reasons, people just didn't like them as much as we thought they would. So I'm curious to hear what some of, Chris, I'm curious what your example would be of this. But one of the things that comes to mind is a product that Chris and I and Chris's team worked on together, which I think this was 2000. This is last year, right? With 2013, we were getting a lot of feedback that the design of newsfeed on our desktop website just felt really outdated, right? And because we tried to focus on showing the best content and giving people all the tools to share all the different types of things that they want with their friends. And a lot of the time we don't focus as much on the aesthetics of it. But we were starting to get feedback that we hadn't changed the design of newsfeed in our homepage in years, and it was really ugly. And people would say stuff like, "This feels like a website from 1990," and that hurt. So we had a team of some of our most talented designers go and just try to refresh it and try to make something that felt more modern and that we thought would make people happier as they were consuming the content and their friends' moments as they were going through newsfeed. And we started rolling this out, and we were really happy about it. We even did a press event to talk about how excited we were about this new design and some of the features. And it turned out that the people who used this just did not like it. And they used it less, and they were able to learn less about what was going on with their friends, and they were seeing less content. And what we realized was the issue was that we at Facebook kind of design our products. We have these big monitors, right? That and the theory is that it lets the engineers and designers here work on a lot of different windows at the same time as you're building things. But one of the things that it did was it gave us a blind spot to the computers that most people are actually using in the world, because most people are not using like a 25-inch screen when they're using Facebook. So we designed this version of newsfeed that basically was very spaced out. It had a lot of white space, so it was very aesthetically pleasing because it didn't feel very crammed together. But when most people were actually using it, the net effect of that was instead of seeing 2, maybe 3 stories on the screen when they loaded Facebook, now they saw 1.5. And it took a while to scroll through more of the stories, and it just ended up performing worse, and people didn't like it as much. So we basically ended up not rolling it out. We rolled it out to a very small number of people and then kind of ate our pride on it. And even though internally we were very proud of the work that we'd done, we decided not to roll it out further. Now, the good news and the silver lining here is that a lot of the things that we developed that we thought were innovations, we since have figured out tighter design ways to roll it out, and that's inspired some of the mobile design that we've done that now has been more effective on smaller screens. But it was a very humbling moment for us where we had to realize that what we'd built and spent a year doing wasn't actually going to best serve the community, so we didn't roll it out further. Do you have anything that you'd add to that?
No, it was an example of a product that taught us really that in the billion people that are using Facebook, you can oftentimes build something that 100 million will love. But that's like a really hard number to think about. But it was a cool process for us and a good learning moment for us because it gave us a lot more empathy for the broad range of people using desktop computers, which there are still a lot of. And I think we ended up taking a lot of the really nice parts, but it's something we do a lot of here is try and at each stage of the way along the building of a product to be introducing it to more and more people. So you start with 10 people, and then you try and get 100 people, and then you try and get 1,000 people, and you bring a lot of them in here to Menlo Park to talk to you and watch them use it. We're often surveying people in languages all around the world. It's the kind of thing that's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't ever thought about a software company that's trying to build something in every language for every phone and every PC and every tablet, including the ones that will ship over the next 3 years that we haven't even seen yet. Is sort of like, how do you run a process that lets you kind of like do the math on building something that will work across all those?
So our next question, and this was another one that was really popular on the thread, comes from Zishan in Islamabad. And he says, Mark, I would like to ask when our Facebook fan page's reach will be coming back.
So that's another really good question. And it's one that, when I was looking through the questions that people asked, this is one that a lot of people asked in different versions, and a lot of people voted on it. So I just want to start off by saying, as as the question kind of implies, a lot of businesses that have fan pages over time, some of them are getting more distribution and they're reaching more people, and some of them are reaching less as we make different product changes. And before kind of explaining why this is, I just want to express some empathy in that we understand what it's like to be a business, especially starting from being a startup and trying to reach your customers and reach people and communicate and grow. And we care really deeply about the different changes in our product and how that affects all the businesses and people who are using fan pages. And we take it really seriously when any product change that we do will change or impact or have an impact on someone's business. So with that said, I think it's also important to kind of keep in mind that Facebook is, it's this huge service. More than 1 billion people use it. So even though there are these shifts on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis, and you'll find that your business might get more or less traffic, it's probably still like overall a very good organic and free way to reach and communicate with your customers overall. So I don't want to lose track of that. Now, in terms of what's going on here, there are two primary trends that I think are affecting the organic reach of fan pages. The first is that as time goes on, people are just sharing more things on Facebook. So each person who's consuming content in their newsfeed, they might read 100 stories from their friends and pages a day. And as their friends share more content, and as they follow more pages, and as those pages share more content, there's just more competition, right? And the average person, there are about 1,500 stories a day that they could see in newsfeed, and they only see about 100. So that means that less than 10% of what people are posting, the person will actually get to in their feed. And that's important in terms of thinking about how we design newsfeed and how we give people the best experience. But it's an important thing to keep in mind is just that there are these two trends. One is that the population of the community on Facebook is growing, so you'll reach more people that way. But there's also more competition for what they see. So only the highest quality content is actually going to get through and shown to those people. So you really need to focus on continuing to make sure that you're pushing out good content and communicating effectively with your customers. The other thing that is a more philosophical way that we think about the products that we build. So newsfeed, our goal is to build the perfect personalized newspaper for every person in the world, right? We think about the way that like the newspaper industry or media has evolved over time, and there are lots of different newspapers or media channels that people can plug into, and they tend to not be personalized, right? You can read your local newspaper or a national newspaper or a TV station, and they're kind of showing the same thing to hundreds of thousands or millions of people. And what we're trying to do with Facebook and newsfeed in particular is personalize it and show you the stuff that's going to be the most interesting to you, whether that's global news through pages that you might be following or things that are really personal to you, right? So updates about your friends. I mean, one of one of one of my friends just this morning had a baby, right? And I learned about that the baby is healthy on newsfeed, and it made me really happy, right? And that might be relevant to me, but not relevant to a lot of other people in the world. And that's one thing that we try to deliver through newsfeed. So there's this inherent conflict in the system, though, which is, are we trying to optimize newsfeed to give each person, all of you guys, the best experience when you're reading? Or are we trying to help businesses just reach as many people as possible? And in every decision that we make, we optimize for the first, for making it so that for the people who we serve, who use Facebook and who are reading newsfeed, get the very best experience that they can. And that means that if a business is sharing content that's going to be useful for them, then we'll show that. But that means that if the business is sharing content that isn't going to be useful for them, we may not show that, because it's probably more important that they learn about their friend who had a baby and their baby is healthy. So that's an important guiding principle for how we think about this stuff. And as the products continue to develop, there's just going to be more people sharing more things, and we're going to continue to try to do our best at showing the best things that we can, understanding that there's no way that a person will ever take the time to go through every one of the 1,500 things that are shared with them every single day. But that's kind of how I think about organic reach. And there are a lot of pages that are doing quite successfully, and their organic reach is growing quite a bit because they're delivering content to people that they really want. So if you're a business owner and you're thinking about how to use your free page on Facebook, I would just focus on trying to publish really good content that's going to be compelling to your customers and the people who are following you.
So as I mentioned before, we have a few people that flew in after asking their questions on the thread. And I'm going to start with you, Lori. Introduce yourself.
My name is Lori Walking Eagle, and we flew here from Provo, Utah. And I'm a huge movie fan, and one of my top 10 favorite movies is The Social Network.
Oh boy.
And my question has always been to you, how accurate is the movie compared to the real-life story of Facebook's beginnings?
All right. Thank you for your question, Lori. Wow, I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about that movie in a while. I kind of blocked that one out. It was a very interesting experience to watch a movie that was supposedly about my life. Yeah, supposedly. I think the reality is that writing code and building a product and then building a company actually is not a glamorous enough thing to make a movie about. So you can imagine that a lot of the stuff they probably had to embellish and make up. Because if they were really making a movie, it would have been of me sitting at a computer coding for 2 hours straight, which probably would have just not been that good of a movie. And these guys, I think, want to win awards and sell tickets. So that's kind of where they went with it. I actually, to this day, I haven't met the writer or a lot of the folks who made the movie. I met the guy who played me in the movie one time when I was on Saturday Night Live. I think he was a little afraid to meet me after his portrayal, but I tried to be nice. It was interesting. They went out of their way in the movie to try to get some interesting details correct, like the design of the office. But on the overarching plot, in terms of why we're building Facebook to help connect the world, or how we did it, they just kind of made up a bunch of stuff that I found kind of hurtful, right? And I take our mission really seriously. We're here not primarily to just build a company, but to help connect the world, right? And help people stay connected to the people who they love and they care about, and to help them get information about the world. And we take that really seriously. So the thing that I found the most interesting about the movie was that they kind of made up this whole plot line about how I somehow decided to create Facebook to, I think, attract girls. And now, one important piece of context is the woman who I'm married to, who I've been dating for more than 10 years, and have known for more than 10 years, I was actually dating her before I even started Facebook. So, if somehow I was trying to create Facebook to get to find more women, that probably would not have gone over too well in my relationship. And I probably would not still be married to her today. So, there were pretty glaring things that were just made up about the movie that made it pretty hard for me to take seriously. But, we had some fun with it. We knew that everyone who works at Facebook was going to go want to see it anyway, right? Because it's how often does someone make a major movie about your company? So we took the whole company to go see it, I think the day that it came out. And there's this joke going around where I think there's this scene in the movie where, like, we're drinking apple teenies, and no one had ever heard of apple teenies before this movie. But somehow they made up when they were writing it that this was like my favorite drink was an apple teeny. So for a while, everyone around the office was drinking apple teenies, kind of making fun of me in the movie. So you got to have fun and have a sense of humor about it. But no, I think the real story is just a lot of hard work, right? It's a lot of people who are engineers who kind of sit around and code, and we're here. Because we're trying to help people connect, and we believe deeply in this mission. And our community today has 1.35 billion people in it, and there are 7 billion people in the world, and we want to connect all of them. And that's why we're here.
So another one of our guests who's flown in today, Carla.
Hi, Mark.
Hey.
My name is Carla. I'm 18 years old, and I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My question is, do you have any programs for young people looking to start up a company or business? I know that me being 18 years old and trying to work in my company is really challenging at times.
Yeah, so this is a really good question. So there are a bunch of programs that Facebook has specifically for either people who are starting companies or to help train people who want to start companies in the future. The first is, we have this development platform. So a lot of the apps that get built in the world, on iOS and Android and mobile phones, the majority of the top apps plug into Facebook and use tools that Facebook has because you want to make login easy, or you want to make it so that a person can bring their friends to your app experience. And there are a bunch of tools that normally businesses would have to pay for to use. And we actually give new companies that are getting started $40,000 worth of tools for free. So it's called the FB Start program, and we can send you information about that if you're interested. So, one of the other questions before touched on some of the other tools that we have. A lot of businesses now use Facebook pages for free or to advertise if they want to kind of amplify their reach. There are more than 30 million businesses in the world that use Facebook pages. It's really easy. You can just go and set up a page. It's kind of gotten so easy and to the point where it's such a better way to reach people that I think now there's something like 30 or 35% of businesses, small businesses in the US, don't even have a website anymore and just use something like a Facebook page in order to communicate with their customers. So there are tools like that I think are kind of good to think about that we offer and we can help you use as well. This may be less relevant for you if you're already in the process of starting a company, but another thing is, I like to think about Facebook and the people who come and work here or do internships here as if this whole company is a training ground for the next generation of entrepreneurs. Right, so some companies get kind of sad when their people leave to go start companies or do other things. I get a little bit sad because I never want our awesome people to leave, but I also feel very proud when they leave and then go do something and start another company somewhere else. And we have programs especially for college students where they can come and they can intern for a summer and learn about the way that we develop stuff. And I think that's probably a pretty valuable way to kind of pick up some skills about how I hope to think that Facebook is a pretty entrepreneurial company, how we do things and how you might want to do it on your own. So those are 3 interesting programs. Besides that, I think the main thing is just when you're starting something, it's just kind of hard. You need to be pretty headstrong about it, right? And there are going to be all these challenges that come up. And I think the main thing that you need to do is just not give up, right? And kind of know what you want to do. And the best entrepreneurs who I've met don't really start companies because their goal is to build a company. They do it because they want to make a change in the world and help people. And I think if you kind of stay true to that and if you just focus on kind of powering through no matter what the challenges are that will inevitably come up in your path, then you'll find that there are lots of tools that are available and a lot of people who will help you build what you're building.
So next we have Brandon, who flew in from Florida. Brandon, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me. So is Facebook intending to take over the mobile industry? by creating a new ultra-low-cost voice-over IP mobile platform based off of internet derived by autonomous solar drones, at the same time using the WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger apps to replace SMS texts.
All right, thank you. There's a lot in there. You touched on a lot of the different stuff that we're doing. So I think you got messaging, which we talked about. VoIP, so free calling, is certainly something that we're focused on. And David, I don't know if you want to jump in and say something about that. And you also talked about the work that we're doing to design solar-powered planes that can beam down internet access to people. And I was talking a moment ago about how our mission is to help connect everyone in the world. And there are a lot of people in the world who don't have internet access today. So when we were getting started with Facebook, we had this goal from like, I don't know, maybe about 8 years ago. People inside the company, when I think there were about maybe 25 million people in our community at the time, and people started talking about, wow, maybe one day we could connect 1 billion people. And it was just, everyone was like, nah, that's crazy. We'll never connect 1 billion people, right? That's way too many people. And then we just kept on working at it, and then eventually we reached that milestone. But it's possible to connect 1 billion people today because there are 1 billion people in the world who have the internet. There are about 2.5 billion people, 2.7 billion people who have internet. But the other 4.5 billion people don't. And Facebook is the biggest internet service today in terms of the number of people who use it. And we feel like we have this social responsibility to help spread the internet and all the goodness that comes along with that, so that people can use it for learning, for education, to find information on jobs, for health information, and to just communicate and have fun and do all the things that you love and enjoy on the internet. So we have a bunch of efforts that we call internet.org in kind of combined, and it's this partnership that we're working on with a lot of other technology companies in the industry, because no one company can go help the whole world get connected, right? There are going to be a lot of different companies that are involved in that, and we're just kind of trying to help catalyze that and form partnerships to help that happen. But there are a bunch of different challenges in making that happen. So one is that there are a lot of folks who just don't live in a place where there's any network, right? So even if you happen to buy a phone, there would be no network for you to connect to and buy, even if you had a phone and you had money to get on the network. So part of what we're doing is we're doing research into things like satellites and solar-powered planes that can go to these places and beam down internet. And it's kind of crazy futuristic stuff. And it's very exciting. And we're engineers, so we love working on that. And that's one part of what we're trying to do for the future. That actually isn't the biggest problem that most people have in terms of getting on the internet. The majority of people, about 85% of people, even people who don't have internet access, already actually do live within range of a network. And the biggest issues tend to be either economic, that they can't afford to pay, so we need to make it cheaper to use and more efficient, or that they didn't grow up with the internet. So there's a question of, if they have the opportunity to use the internet and pay for it, a lot of folks will ask, what can I do with this? And it turns out to be this educational challenge of showing the value of the internet so that people adopt it. So we're working on all of those different challenges and trying to help spread the internet. We're also trying to build the best messaging service, as you said, and we also are hard at work trying to make it so that people can make free phone calls over using VoIP as well, which I think is a great service, especially for the set of people who can barely afford to be on the internet at all. Making it so that they can make free phone calls is an awesome win. So that's kind of a summary of some of those things that we're trying to do. And it's really exciting stuff. It's going to take a long time to play out. I think best case, we'll kind of come back 10 years from now and we'll have made some progress towards trying to connect everyone in the world, but this is not the type of thing that you can really accomplish in like a year or two. So we have some of our best people here just working on that on a long time horizon, trying to make a dent in this. I don't know, Chris or David, did you have anything that you want to add to that? No. Awesome.
And the last of our guests who's come in from the thread, Manish.
Hi, Mark. My name is Manish, and I come from Fremont. So first of all, thank you for creating a platform where we can connect anyone and everyone in the world. And also thank you for supporting social causes like education, immigration, and Ebola. My question is two-part. Do you think Facebook is losing its charm and becoming boring? And the reasons are, it is primarily becoming photo and video sharing site. And I think that with the like so many photos being saved every day, I think almost 400 million, it may be a drag on your technology platform too. And I think Jay can answer that. And then the second part, do you think it has become like too much information? It's an information overload. Let's say if I don't touch Facebook for 24 hours and I have to sift through my feed, it may take me almost 45 minutes. So there's too much, means if you start following people, if you have a good network of friends, you start liking things, there is just so much information. So there is a way that we can control the news feed, I can throttle it and do something. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Those are both good questions. You know, one question that a lot of folks ask, and before I get into that, I saw Jay shaking his head no before, that the photos are not a load on our infrastructure. And I think what he means by that is they are a load, but he's got it. And I mean, there's a lot of kind of cool stuff that Jay's team works on in terms of designing and operating these data centers all over the world that serve Facebook in all its forms. So the first of your questions was around, it's a question that folks ask from time to time, is kind of, is Facebook getting less cool, right? I mean, I think you phrased it as, are we losing our charm? And, you know, it's an interesting question to me, because my goal was never really to make Facebook cool. I am not a cool person. And I've never really tried to be cool. And what, you know, so our model for Facebook has never been to try to make it particularly exciting to use. We just want to make it useful, right? So the services that we aspire to be like in the world are kind of these basic things that you can rely on and that are there, and that you'd probably be pretty upset if they went away, but you're not like sitting around celebrating all day long. So you go home, you turn on the lights, right? You're probably not like, yeah, electricity, yeah, right? It's just like it needs to work, and you know, same thing with water and a lot of things like that. And my goal is that I think, you know, the ability to communicate and connect with people should be that, right? It should be something that people can rely on and that people have, and that it doesn't always need to be in your face, right? It's like, yeah, we're here, we're electricity, or we're the social network. It just should work, right? It should be there. So there are a lot of changes and things that we're constantly working on, but we try to have them be natural. And what I think tends to happen more often than not is when we get it right, a lot of the time people don't notice. And when we get it wrong, or we don't do as smooth of a job as we should, then people notice. So for example, you know, there's the first question about Messenger, and you know, and part of the reason why that kind of turned into this issue where a lot of folks were upset that we asked them to install a new app was maybe we didn't handle that as smoothly as we could have in terms of the transition. But there are a lot of transitions that we make that actually are very smooth. So, for example, I mean, you were talking about how now most of Facebook is photos. That's true. 5 years ago, most of Facebook was text. And if you fast forward 5 years, probably most of it is going to be video, right? Just because it's getting easier to capture video of the moments of your lives and share it. And that's just more technological challenges for Jay and his team to handle in terms of streaming that well. But we're going to do that, right? And that's our job, to make sure that works and works seamlessly. And as the world trends towards you know, sharing more kind of static stuff like text and into more kind of richer forms of content like video, we just want to be there and make that work without you having to notice. So that 5 years from now, when you wake up and a lot of the content in Facebook is video, you're just like, oh, this is kind of boring. It's like, this is how it should be. Of course it's video, right? Another example is mobile. Right, a few years ago, probably most of you used Facebook primarily on computers, and today probably you use it primarily on phones. And a lot of what we had to do was get our mobile apps to be faster, and we're continuing to work on that. We're not 100% of where we want to be, but you know, for those of you who've been using our mobile apps for a few years, you know that they're a lot faster now and a lot better than they were a few years ago, because we've kind of focused on that. But speed is something that you should just be able to rely on and know is going to be there, and that shouldn't have to be something that we celebrate, right? It just should be something that's implied, that you know, you use a service and it's going to be fast. So yeah, so what was the other part of your question was?
Like the news feed, it's
right. Yeah, about information overload, right? And you know, this gets to another question that I think that a lot of people have, and that a lot of people asked on the thread. So I'm glad you're bringing it up here. one of the biggest questions that we often get is around the ranking of newsfeed, and some folks ask, why can't we just have everything be chronological in newsfeed and just kind of keep most recent, or have different orders. And it gets back to this point that I was saying before around how every day there are about 1,500 stories that are shared with you, and the average person will only look at about 100 a day, right? Because that's all you have time for what you're saying. So what we want to do is make sure that instead of just cutting it so that you only see, a random 8% or 10% of the stories, and, maybe you miss the story about your friend who just had a baby and their baby is healthy, we want to make it so that you always see the most important stuff, right? And that's a lot of what we do on our newsfeed team, is try to find signals to see what kind of content people are interested in on a person-by-person basis, learn from how you use the product. So if you tend to read news and not want to look at pictures, then we should try to be showing you more news. That's what the perfect personalized newspaper for you would be. If you're a person who likes watching video, then we should try to be showing you more video. If you like only seeing stories from your friends and not news or public content, then we should skew it in that way. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do, is work on ranking newsfeed and making it so that we show you the very best content that we can for you. Part of what we need to do is also give more controls that people can, in addition to just kind of adapting to how you use the products, that you can explicitly tune your newsfeed and say, I want more of this, or I want more of this, and that's something that I think we're going to work on and do more of, hopefully over the next year, because it's something that we've heard very loud and clear from a lot of people in our community that it's very important to you. Do you have anything that you want to add to that? Cool. Please do. But let me give you
one second. Okay.
Other thing, what can be done on the top, if the tabs are created, like all, the news, friends and family, and the celebrities like you and Prime Minister or somebody, so their feed. So that way means I don't have to go through the whole feed. I can just click on that tab and it filtered and only shows the relevant content that I'm interested in.
Yeah. And we actually have something like that. We haven't made it as easy as we need to create these kind of filters. But if you look on desktop, you have there's most recent, so you can go and you can filter things that way. You can create friend lists and different sets of content that you can look at in different ways there. And you can always just go to the different tabs and look at whatever you want to that way. But this is an area where I think we need to do a lot more of over time. So and we will do that over the next coming years. Yeah.
So we're going to open the room up to questions. So while you guys are thinking of your questions, we have another one from the thread, Mark. It's getting a lot of interest. Are you ready for this? It's from Serenio, Italy, from Antonio. Mark, why do you wear the same shirt every day? Follow up, is it the same shirt? Is there one? Like, how does this all go down every day?
Now, you'll be happy to know that there are multiple of the same shirt. Cheryl tells the story that when she joined the company, you should probably just tell the story because it's a pretty funny story. You got a mic.
Sorry, yeah, I joined the company almost 7 years ago, and I thought one of the major things I contributed is I went around telling people, Mark actually has more than one of that T-shirt, which people found very reassuring.
We just kind of give each other crap all the time. It's part of having a good work environment, I think. It's a very simple question in a way, but it actually speaks to how we think about our duty to the community here. I really want to clear my life to make it so that I have to make as few decisions as possible about anything except how to best serve this community. And there's actually a bunch of psychology theory that even making small decisions around what you wear or what you eat for breakfast or things like that, they kind of make you tired and consume your energy. And my view is, I'm in this really lucky position where I get to wake up every day and help serve more than 1 billion people, right? And I feel like I'm not doing my job if I spend any of my energy on things that are silly or frivolous about my life, so that way I can dedicate all of my energy towards just building the best products and services and helping us reach our goal and achieve this mission of helping to connect everyone in the world and giving them the ability to stay connected with the people that they love and care about. So that's what I care about. So even though it kind of sounds silly to, all right, that's my reason for wearing a gray t-shirt every day, it also is true. And I think that there are a number of other people throughout history who've kind of had the same approach. I think Steve Jobs did. I think our president, Obama, I don't think chooses what he wears every day, kind of for the same psychological reason. And but in our case, it's just I really want to make sure that all of my energy can go towards serving this community.
Great, so let's open it up to the room. I think we have a question here already. Come on over, if you can.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Sosa. I'm an electrical engineering student at San Jose State University. And from a student's perspective, I hear you work hard a lot. Everyone that I talk to, every thread I read, you're the guy who just, he knows how to keep things in order and keep it organized, and he works, and it's awesome. It's really inspiring for students like us. And I just wanted to know, how do you keep that passion running for Facebook?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think it kind of starts with doing something that you think is really important, right? People, I think, build companies for a lot of different reasons, but for me, I actually never really wanted to build a company. When I started Facebook, I didn't start it as a company. I just started it as a project, and I only decided to turn it into a company once we had so much work that we were doing that I realized that I needed a lot of help, and that the best way to structure this whole thing and make Facebook the best thing that I could was if I made it a company and used that to hire people. So that way, as we made money, I could get more talented people to join and get more energy going towards building and serving this community. But I actually think as I met more people who started companies, I learned that was actually not a very uncommon thing. A lot of the best companies and the founders who I admire didn't set out in the beginning to build a company, because at the end of the day, I think building a company can get kind of old. And there's a lot of stuff that you're going to have to deal with that's just not that fun. But if what you really care about is some change that you're trying to make in the world, then that can be pretty motivating for a long time. And then there's this concept in education these days, grit, where a lot of what makes, I think, a company or an organization or an individual effective is just the ability to power through a lot of stuff that sucks. And building a company, most things do not go your way, right? So, I mean, as much as it may look like, oh, like building Facebook, it just kind of like worked at each step along the way, it really isn't true. I mean, I've been very lucky, right? And I've gotten a lot of really good breaks, both in my life and in building this company. But like almost every day, there are crazy things that come up that just from all angles, right? I mean, we have a technical issue, and one data center doesn't have electricity, and we need to manage that, right? So kick in the backup generators, or there's like some government is trying to do something that's difficult, right? And or there's a competitor, or or like someone who's really important in the company wants to leave to go do something else, and we relied on them to go deliver something for our community, and or our business isn't going as well, and investors are going to be upset, and then there's all this pressure to focus on making money instead of doing what we really want to do, which is serving the community. So there are just all these things that come up, and I think the key is just kind of those two things. It's you really need to believe in what you're doing, and that it's an important and helpful thing in the world, and you need to have grit in order to kind of see these things through, and surround yourself with a team of people that you like working with who also have grit and will help you get through it, because no one can ever do this by themselves, right? But if you can do that, then there are lots of examples of successful companies in the world. So the good news, I think, is that Facebook is not that unique in the grand scheme, right? I mean, maybe something like Facebook doesn't come along every year, but if you look at like 100 years or 1,000 years, there are many examples of people who have like believed in things, who have focused on them and built them, and on all kinds of different scales, and it really is possible. So I'd encourage you to just keep on focusing and find what you think is a really important change that needs to get built in the world, and do it.
I think I saw a second question over here. Yes.
Hello, Mark. I'm Cedric from the Capor Center in Oakland, and you all have some great people here who are working to ensure that Facebook looks like the demographic makeup of the United States. And I'm curious about your perspective on the importance of diversifying tech, the sector writ large.
Yeah, I mean, this is an important topic that we have been spending a lot of time focused on. We actually, we have an all-hands meeting where we just get our whole company together every quarter, just because it's, I mean, a lot of people, and so we have these weekly Q&As that people can come to if they want, and we have these all hands where we try to get people to come. And we just had one, this was last week or the week before, and we only had 3 topics, and one of them was the importance of diversity and how it's not like the diversity recruiting team's job. It is literally every person in the company's job to make sure that that their teams are diverse. Because for a number of reasons. I mean, one is there's just so much research that shows that diverse teams perform better at anything that you're trying to do, right? So if you're trying to help connect the world, having a diverse team is going to help you better do that. If you're trying to, even if you're just trying to make more money, right? I mean, and you're just tracking the financial results of companies, companies that are more diverse do better. In academic settings, just you kind of go on and on and on. There's a big problem in the technology industry and in computer science and engineering in specific, where there's not only is there less diversity than normal, but there's especially way fewer women, and that's an issue that it's this problem because it's not even clear where you would start attacking it, right? It's like you need to start earlier in the funnel so that girls don't self-select out of doing computer science education. But at the same time, one of the big reasons why I think today we have this issue is that there aren't a lot of women in the field today. So it's so I heard one person put it this way, that the reason why girls don't go into computer science is because there are no girls in computer science, right? It's the circular thing that you need to break the cycle, and you need to just do overwhelming effort in order to do that. So it's something that I believe is really important. I think we will only really achieve our mission and succeed in the way that we want to if we're successful at doing this. We have specific teams at Facebook that are focused on this, but I also think I'd be remiss to not call out Cheryl on this one, who has written a whole book, which is an awesome book, and I encourage all of you to read. It definitely changed a lot of my perspectives on this in terms of what some of the challenges are facing minorities and women in the workforce. I think you should probably come up and comment on some of the stuff that both we and the industry should do overall on this.
Well, I think we have some of the girls who code here, right? All right, you guys, stand up. Stand up. So, women who code. But this is the answer, that we know that girls are just as good at math and science when they are told they're just as good at math and science. We know when girls are told that boys are better in math and science, that boys outperform. And so it's really simply a matter of expectations. And so starting young, starting with people in school, we have so many great girls. I guess they're still girls. I saw some 8th graders here. So many great people who really care about this. And just knowing that we can get as many women as men into computer science if we start encouraging them, believing it's possible, and really putting a focused effort. These are great careers. In a job market that's tough, in a world where people are struggling for employment, the part of the economy that is full employment is technologists. This company, we will kill for every great computer scientist we can get out there, and so will all the other tech companies. And so when you think about a future of a job that's really promising and a job that's also really flexible, tech is a great place to be, and we as a company believe that every girl out there can do it if she wants to.
So Mark, I want to throw in one more question from the thread because it's very timely, and it comes from Janine in New York City. Why are you and Facebook getting involved in the fight against Ebola?
So there are a lot of really important issues in the world, right? And I don't think anyone can focus on all of them. The reason why I care so much about Ebola is because right now it's affected 10, 13,000 people, which by itself makes it serious. But if we're at this critical moment in time right now where if we focus on it and and kind of prevent it from spreading to the rest of Africa, to India, to Pakistan and Bangladesh, and a lot of other big countries where a lot of health folks are really worried that it could spread. If we don't do that now, then it could be the next global epidemic, right? That the next HIV or tuberculosis or polio. And I think that there isn't enough attention in the world focused on kind of stopping those things before they become at that scale. And I mean, what I would have given to have been able to go back to the 70s or 80s before I was born and try to fight to prevent HIV from getting to the scale that it got to, I mean, that's like, you don't get opportunities to do that. And I feel like that's what the world has the opportunity to do with Ebola now. And, so for folks who say, this isn't the biggest issue today, that might be true in a narrow sense, right? That it isn't the biggest cause of death that's out there. But I do think that we are at this rare moment in time for, maybe the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, who knows? You never know ahead of time, where we have the chance to make this not be the next HIV type thing in the world. And I just think that's worth a lot of folks rallying around it and focusing to make sure that it doesn't do that, because if it does, it'll really hurt and affect tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people's lives. So we have an opportunity to kind of get this now before it becomes that, and I think we need to.
So we have about 5 minutes left, so we
right.
have time for one more. Wait, here? Go ahead.
Hi, Mike. My name is Tara, and I run the world's largest competition teaching girls how to program mobile apps and launch their startups. There's a lot of research that says employee skill-based volunteering directly affects corporate financial performance. So I was curious, do you have any thoughts on like a commitment that engages Facebook, kind of like the STEM expertise, and put it into the community on a larger scale?
So I didn't understand. What's the data that
So there's direct data that says when companies engage employees in skill-based volunteering, where they're teaching what they do best, it actually directly affects the financial performance.
Interesting. I haven't actually seen that, so I'm curious to look more at that. But yeah, I mean, we have a number of programs where we encourage engineers and folks here not only to engage with the community, largely kind of geographically around our offices, but we have these intern programs and short-term programs where people come in and we train folks. So we definitely believe a lot in kind of continuing education and continued development of skills for folks, both internal here and kind of continuing to rejuvenate that by having the people at our company interact with people outside who might have different perspectives than we have internally. I don't know, I mean, Lori, if there's anything specific that you think that we should add on this, or Cheryl, or anyone.
I think a lot of people here really believe that what we do every day is benefiting the community, because we put out a product that is free for people to use and they can connect. So there are a lot of people here who will work with nonprofits to help them use Facebook. And a lot of people here are really proud of the efforts when they, build the donate button today that launched to help donate to things for Ebola. I think one of the things we've been happy about is how the product we build in and of itself helps fulfill our mission of connecting the world. And so we think our platform very much can be used for good. Not always. Certainly there are, things that are just fun or things that aren't good that happen on our service and all others. But the platform itself that people build every day feels very mission aligned. And I think it's one of the things that Mark's done for Facebook from the beginning that makes the place special to work here.
All right.
Mark, do you want to do one final one?
All right, sure.
We're getting a lot of questions here. I want to give a student a chance to ask a question. Here, how about here?
Okay. Well, my name is Melissa Gomez. I'm in 8th grade. I go to Los Robles Magnet Academy in East Palo Alto. And there's 2 parts to this question. I'll make it quick. So I'm pretty sure that you had obstacles in life during the process of building your company. And you must have had a technique to make yourself stand up from that obstacle and keep on going for your dream. And I would like to know, what did you do in those moments when you were really tired and you wanted to give up, but you found something and you stood up and you went for what you wanted. So that's my question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so my path here has been interesting because when I was getting started, I didn't want to build a company and I didn't know anything about building companies. So one of the things that was really lucky for me was I started Facebook when I was a student in college, and then I moved out here to Silicon Valley for the summer, right then, and the reason why I did that was because I saw that there were all these awesome companies all these awesome technology companies that got built out of Silicon Valley, and I actually at the time I wasn't even thinking that Facebook might be one of them. I was like, well, one day down the line, maybe I'll build something that'll be a company, right? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of silly in retrospect to think that I wasn't thinking about that. But the plan was, to move out here and then move back, and I just started meeting really interesting people who gave me advice on, things to look out for, and people who joined our team and who supported me on this whole path towards doing all the stuff that I had no idea how to do. But, challenge after challenge after challenge for 10 years now and continuing. So, the real secret, I think, it's there's no kind of superhuman ability that anyone has to just kind of power through stuff. I mean, I do think you kind of need to remind yourself that you need to focus and try not to let stuff bother you as much as possible. But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human still. But I was just referring to myself in the past. Not that I was not human. But the thing that got me through it, and I think gets a lot of people through it, is the people around them, right? And there's interesting data on this that that companies that have more founders are actually more likely to have a successful outcome. And I mean, one of the reasons for that, I think, is that it's just like really hard to do anything on your own like this. I mean, there just are so many challenges and there are going to be things that you don't know how to do. And one of the things that I think the media gets wrong about companies or inventions or things over time is they try to make it seem like one person did it, right? So, it's part of the reason why we're doing this Q&A today, but like my team is here, right? Because I don't know all the answers and we're building this together. And, I think that that's like a really kind of fundamental thing about how stuff works. And, the more that you feel like you have to take everything onto yourself when you're taking on some big challenge, I think the more that it's just likely that something eventually is going to be overwhelming or that you're not going to know how to deal with it because no person knows how to deal with everything. But if you can kind of find a team of people or friends or family, and there'll be different people over time because, different people like focusing on different types of problems or different scales of the problem, then that's what's really going to get you through. And that's what's gotten me through, and that's what continues to get me through all the stuff that we have. So yeah, you don't have to be superhuman. You just kind of need to kind of keep on going and not do it alone, and find people who share your passion for what you think is an important thing in the world, and you keep on going like that.
I've seen that you've been really putting a lot of your work in us as students, and I wanted to thank that. Thank you for that, and I really admire you as a person, and I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we will. Should we do it right now? Well, we should. I'm gonna wrap up. All right. So I think we're gonna wrap up. I just want to thank you guys all for coming out today. I mean, this has been it's been really interesting hearing your questions, and I want to follow up on the data that you had that I didn't know. That's a lot of how I learned from these Q&As. Is people ask questions that I don't know how to answer. Those are the interesting ones for me. but in a lot of ways, this reminds me of the first Q&As that we had internally at Facebook, where the company was so small that we used to just kind of sit around in a circle, and people it was more of a conversation than a Q&A. But that evolved in our culture into something that's been a really important part of how we learn and how we are transparent and open and how we work and continue to evolve. And I hope that these town hall Q&As can become an important part of how we learn from the community of people that we serve, what's on your mind and how to serve you better. So thank you for making the investment and coming out here today to talk to us. All right.